Mohammed Al-Masri, he's an associate professor in media and cultural studies. He joins us now from Doha. Thanks so much for being with us. I mean, is this freedom of speech, or is it freedom to lie and misinform, even if you believe what you're saying?
That's a complicated question. We're going to get into the great debates among free speech theorists. You know, my personal view, having read a lot of the literature, is that the notion of absolute free speech is deeply problematic, and that there always, in reality, have to be some sorts of limitations. There have to be proverbial red lines, and really, it's a matter of where you want to draw those lines. I happen to think that misinformation in the context of political events and political campaigns is deeply problematic. So, I think it can be justified from an ethical perspective, and even from a free speech perspective. What sites like Twitter are doing.
Right. I mean, you say it's deeply problematic, and it's also potentially extremely dangerous when it comes down to things like rallying militias or radical groups. What scares you most about this going totally unregulated? If this Parler app, does become something where conspiracy theorists, even hate groups, can just get on board and spew out whatever they want, what could happen?
Well, it could translate into, quote unquote, real life, outside of the virtual world, real life chaos and political violence potentially, right? I mean, I think that's the greatest fear. We know that extremist groups have, in a variety of contexts, have gathered and organized online. We know that they've organized criminal acts online, and so that's the fear. The United States is already a deeply polarized society. These social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, and others, have become sort of echo chambers where people gather with like-minded folks and preach to the choir, so to speak. And most of them are not violent, but there are some of them who are. And that's the risk. We know that Trump supporters, in particular, have, some of them are, involved with criminal activities and criminal elements, and that's the fear, that this could sow further chaos in American society.
Okay, so let's talk, if we can, about prevention. I mean, the law is always one step behind technology. So when do you expect to see some kind of, ethical laws arguably step in and try to do to maybe these developing apps, these new apps that are hitting the market so strongly, similar to what Twitter and Facebook decided they had to do to take, an ethical position on their platforms?
Right. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. We'll have to keep an eye on it. It's an interesting debate in the United States and also in other Western societies, because the minute you start to restrict forms of speech, then you are faced with accusations of being, anti-free speech, and that's what Twitter and Jack Dorsey are having to deal with right now. Now, to what extent those are fair accusations, I mean, that's for individual people to decide. I've already told you my personal opinion. I feel like there have to be reasonable restrictions on certain kinds of speech, especially speech that is likely to cause some sort of imminent harm, right? And so I think it's, to answer your question, it's probably a matter of time, but and there are already laws on the books, I mean, that can be used to reasonably restrict some forms of speech, and these are also private companies, and they have the right to operate how they want to some extent as well. So there's this kind of there are contradictions at play. There are issues that still need to be debated and resolved, and I think that the next few months, probably the next few years, will be interesting, to say the least.
Okay, Mohammed Al-Masri joining us there from Doha. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate it.